From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point. Ooh, I like when you press that one.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornbluth, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on sportstalksc.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk here on the Sports Talk Media Network. It is a championship Thursday night here in the state of South Carolina. High school football state championship weekend gets underway tonight, the first of 3 games over the next 3 days. There's 1 game tonight. I make that 5 games over the next 3 days. There's 1 game tonight, 2 games tomorrow, and 2 games on Saturday. Always a great time of the year in South Carolina when we've got high school football state championship games going on. And tonight is the 3A championship game, and you've got Beaufort and Powdersville. Powdersville is here for the first time in their history. They haven't been around very long, and, you know, those folks are up in the upstate are excited to be coming to Benedict College tonight for the state championship game. Beaufort played for a championship last year at a different classification. They were 4A, moved down to 3A this year, and they're right back in the state championship game. David Shelton will join us a little bit later on to talk about the games coming up tomorrow night. We already previewed this game last night, and so he'll join us a little bit later on to talk about games coming up tomorrow night, and then tomorrow night we'll preview the games on Saturday. Meantime, Chris Bergen is joining us from the Berge Palace over in Sardis, and we have Pat Daniel back at our Dave and Buster studios in Columbia. So it's great to have everybody together on this Thursday night. And our phone number, 888-898-2525. That is the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number in the Sports Talk tonight if you want to join us. And, Chris, I guess we should remind everybody, in case they have forgotten, that Clemson still has 1 more game to go. ACC championship game coming up on Saturday. Not a whole lot of buzz about that game that I have felt to this point, I guess because we've taken up so much time talking about last Saturday in Death Valley and the Tigers trying to get over what happened to them with the Gamecocks. But now they've got to be focused and ready to go against a North Carolina team that has also stumbled coming into this championship game. But they can score a lot of points, and they have, according to the voters, the ACC's best player in Drake May, and a guy that, if you think Spencer Rattler can pick you apart, what can this guy do?
Yeah, no doubt. And before we get into that, I wanted to circle back to the high school weekend. The South Carolina High School League should be ashamed of itself for ruining what was one of the best sporting events we had throughout the season, the Weekend of Champions. We've expanded. I get it. We've now got 5 classifications, so you've got to play maybe an extra game or 2. But from Thursday all the way to Saturday, that's not what we had envisioned. And I think it's unfair for the 3A teams to have to turn around after playing last Friday and play again on Thursday. I get it, that happens on occasion, but I just don't like the new setup. I was a much bigger fan of having, you know, when it was at Williams-Brice Stadium or even up at Clemson and Memorial Stadium, when you had when we were 4 classifications, you had the 4A games, and then everybody else played on Saturday. And it was a wonderful opportunity for fans and also media types like ourselves. I think Sports Talk should be commended because I'm not sure how many media fans attendees are going to be there tonight and also tomorrow, unless you have a team in a dog in the fight, if you will. I just don't like the way they've ruined what was a really, really good Weekend of Champions. That being said, we'll move on. I'll get David's take on that coming up shortly. But I'm curious, and I mentioned this last night, Phil. I mean, Clemson fans, are you excited about this weekend? Do you want to go to the game? Are you looking forward to, if you're not going to Charlotte, are you going to be watching? Or did Saturday's loss to South Carolina totally take all the air out of your balloon where it doesn't matter anymore because you're not going to be able to qualify for the CFP playoffs? And the same is true for North Carolina. I mean, the Tar Heels were cruising right along after their early season struggles, and then they've turned it around up until the last 2 weeks when they lost to Georgia Tech and NC State in back-to-back weekends. I'd be curious. North Carolina fans don't travel to begin with, so you don't need to give them a reason not to go to the game because they've already got 10. So I can't imagine there'll be more than about 3,000 North Carolina fans, and they probably all live in Charlotte that would just come over for the game. I'd be stunned if Bank of America Stadium is anywhere close to full on Saturday night.
I think the game is a sellout, though, isn't it? I think
they may have sold
put
out
that the game is a sellout. Yeah.
How many people are going to actually show up and take advantage?
Yeah.
I'm like you. I just have heard very little about how excited Clemson fans are and about the Tigers having an opportunity to win an ACC championship. I think that Dabo may put that as one of his key goals in the program. But losing to South Carolina is much more important. Or beating South Carolina, rather, I think is still much more important for both teams than winning a conference championship.
Well, I think that the rivalry game is the game that you least want to lose because of everything you have to deal with in the aftermath. I mean, it's tough those few days after you lose a rivalry game, especially how things have changed now with immediate opinions popping up on social media. I mean, before the development of social media, you lost a game, you might not have heard from anybody until you went to church the next day. Or maybe you ran into them at the grocery store the first of the week. It's immediate now. Not only is it immediate, of course, it's during the game. I mean, you're getting grilled during the game now with people having such instant access to expressing their feelings about things. So you hate to lose that rivalry game. You heard what Dabo said earlier this week, from the standpoint of his program, losing to South Carolina, losing that game, as he put it, is not acceptable. And South Carolina has to approach that the same way. And I'm sure Georgia feels the same way about Georgia Tech, and Tennessee feels the same way about Vanderbilt, and on and on and on. That's why it was good from the standpoint of – yeah, that's right. Well, maybe one day they'll win again in their rivalry, but it was the same thing with South Carolina. Maybe one day South Carolina was going to win again in their rivalry, and they finally did it. They pulled it out on Saturday. Can they build on that? But yeah, the championship game Saturday night, Clemson and North Carolina is not must-see TV because.
Well, let me ask you: you're going to be there.
Playoffs and yeah.
Do you anticipate 70,000 people at the game?
No. I would think there's going to be a lot of empty seats.
40
tickets were sold. That's fine, but I would imagine you'd have north of 50.
Okay.
Probably south of 60. That would be my guess, somewhere between 50 and 60. But let's talk about this, too, now that we're on this topic. It was made official today by the College Football Playoff Committee that they will go to 12 teams beginning in 2025. So now, Chris, the national championship game in Atlanta in 2025 will be played on January the 20th. That means there will be 59 days between the last of the college football games and the first games of the NCAA tournament. 59 days now is the only amount of time between the last college football game in 25 and the first games of the NCAA basketball tournament. That begins on March the 20th, and the college football championship game is on January 20th.
Okay, but the playoffs are not going to start 59 days after the end of the regular season, right?
No. The playoffs will start the week of December 21st.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, they're going to have games week of December 21st. The championship game now will come January 20th. Right now in the current format, the championship game is around January 10, January 11, somewhere in there, right? Now they're going to push it back because they're going to have more games. And now the new format will have your top 6 ranked conference champions, followed by the next 6 highest ranked teams. The top 4 teams are going to get first round byes. The other 8 will play first round games. They will play either at home stadiums or stadiums nearby the hosting team who can host the game in that facility. So let's think about this for a minute. Now we're talking about 3 or 4 days before Christmas in all likelihood here. Students are gone. And you're going to be playing college football games on campuses, and I know they're calling it the playoffs, but they're going to be lousy games in all likelihood. Don't you think? I mean, you look at some of the pairings that could happen. If you took the top 12 from this year, the top 4 get a bye. So the 4 right now who would be in the playoff would get a bye. So let's say you take last week's or you take this week's standings and you use that as a model. Let's say Clemson would be the number 9 seed. I think they were 9th in the ranking. I'm pulling it up right now.
8.
Clemson would be the number 9 team.
No, that's right. You're right.
No, they're 9. Yeah,
Yep.
they're behind
They
Penn
were 8
State.
last week. Yep.
So you have, let's see, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 would play 5. I have to break this down for myself. 12 would play 5. 11 would play 6. 10 would play
7 and 9 would play 8. And I've got it right in front of me, Corn, if it helps. As of right now, the potential 12-team playoff from the current college football playoff rankings would be Clemson 9 playing Penn State 8. The winner of that would play number 1, that is Georgia. Number 5, Ohio State, would play number 12, Tulane. The winner of that would play the Southern Cal Trojans.
I have Washington number 12 in the rankings right now.
Yeah, but you got to remember, Phil, you have to factor in the highest ranked conference champions. And Tulane, if they win the Atlantic, would be a fairly high ranked conference champion, and they would get a playoff berth.
Yep, and then 11, Utah would play number 6, Alabama, and the winner of that would play the number 3 ranked TCU Horned Frogs. And then number 7, Tennessee would play number 10, Kansas State, and the winner of that would play the number 2, Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah.
So Tennessee, without a starting quarterback, would deserve to play for a national championship. Are you kidding me?
Well, Michigan's
This is why the expansion of the
running
college
back.
football playoff is a mistake.
Michigan's going to be without Corum. He's out for the season now.
Yeah.
Going to have knee surgery. So how's the committee going to look at them when they come off this game against Purdue Saturday? How are you going to look at Michigan without their star running back? I mean, they beat Purdue. They'll still be in the playoffs, I guess. But, I mean, the point is that really ESPN owns the playoffs. ESPN sees this as an opportunity for additional television revenue, additional nights of television. And I read something today by a former Clemson beat writer, John Solomon, who writes now for some really deep thinking organization. And he's like, they still haven't, the college football playoff committee still has not provided additional health insurance for the players. You're asking players to play additional games and threatening in his words, threatening their health and threatening their future. Now, football players love to play football. If they're not playing football and they're in the weight room lifting weights and they're out running and doing all that kind of physical activity. I get that. But his point is the additional money that's going to be coming in as a result of all this, just wait for the people who handle the players. I don't want to say union because they're not a union yet, but there'll be some people pushing the players saying, hey, wait a minute. Whoa, timeout. Where's our cut? What are we getting additional out of this? So we're going to play, if you're one of those teams, we're going to play a 12-game regular season. We're going to play a conference championship game. That's 13. All right. Then we're going to dive into exams, quote unquote, for a couple of weeks. And of course, practice and everything else. And then you want us to play, if we didn't get a bye, you want us to play a game the week of December 21st, okay? And then we're going to play another game the next week, right? And then we're going to play another game the next week. And if we happen to win all those games, we'll play one more game for a championship. Am I right? I'm right.
Yeah. You're going to end up having basically an NFL schedule, at least the regular season NFL schedule.
All really, when you boil it down, it's all for ABC and ESPN. They're the only ones, and of course the schools who get the drip of the money that comes with the payouts that they brag about every spring. Oh, look at here now, we're up to $90 million. Okay, great. So, the players, I know they got the NIL stuff, but not everybody's getting NIL stuff. That big old fat right tackle who's not very attractive in commercials, what's he getting? I don't know. I think the exploitation just continues here now, and I don't know. You think they'll stop at 12, and we're also continuing to water down the regular season. Every time you do this, it makes the regular season games less and less important. You know, um, take Clemson for example.
Mm-hmm.
They lose to South Carolina, second loss of the season. Still going to make the playoffs based on this year's rankings, and so it really devalues the importance of every week and every game is a must-win situation to get into the postseason.
And the funny thing about this, Phil, is the standpoint. If you want to compare what college football is looking at doing with the NFL, that's fine. But the NFL, you play the entire regular season to try and get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. You want to be, if you're Buffalo, you want to have people coming into your stadium in the middle of January in a blizzard and have to deal with you. You want, if you're Tampa Bay, you want teams from up north to come down south in January where it's still a little warm and try and deal with that late in the season. This is not going to be the case because where the bowl's going to sit situated in this. You may have a playoff game or two on campus, but you're not going to be able to run through your campus sites throughout the entire extension of the playoffs. And again, your point about watering down the regular season is valid because basically it just made the Clemson loss to South Carolina. North Carolina's loss perhaps to NC State's. Not all that big a deal. Ohio State's loss to Michigan, no big deal at all. Outside of bragging rights, we're in the playoffs. Michigan's in the playoffs. Clemson's in the playoffs. Tennessee's in the playoffs. They lost 2 games, and they're not going to have their quarterback. But if the scenario were set up this year, they'd be in the playoffs, even with a blowout loss to South Carolina. We're doing to college football what we've done to college basketball for years, and it's made it where nobody tunes in until March because that's when the tournament begins. We're going to start doing that with college football. Nobody's going to really pay attention until late November and into December and January.
That was kind of part of my point of pointing out that 59 days between the college football championship game and the start of the NCAA tournament. So if you're college basketball, all of November, all of December, and nearly all of January now is covered up by college football.
Mm-hmm.
How is that good for college basketball?
It's not.
I mean, how is that good for college basketball? There's some hot spots, of course, across the country that tune into college basketball from the start, and that's all they care about. But we know that those are either your basketball-centric major programs like Duke and North Carolina and Kansas and a few others, but then those are mostly your Gonzagas and your Seton Halls and your smaller schools like that where football doesn't exist or isn't a factor. I'm just saying you're covering up basically over half of your basketball season because all the attention will be on the teams that win and are moving forward through the process in the playoffs.
And Phil,
it will be, especially in states where football is king like here, Pat.
And to piggyback on that, what does it also do to the rest of the bowl season? Because now you have this many playoff games, and they're going to be spread out over the course of, what was it you said, 3-4 weeks, give or take, or I guess 4 or 5 weeks, give or take. Well, what is that going to do to the Citrus Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Myrtle Beach Bowl? What is that going to do to all of the other quote-unquote lower tier, lesser tier bowl games? Are people going to even care to watch those? Are people going to attend those? Because even right now, when we have in the current playoff format, you have the semifinals. They've kind of bounced back and forth between New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, maybe a couple days earlier or later. Does anybody even watch the other bowl games on those days now?
Yeah, they're all TV events, and I mean, ESPN. They I guess they sell them cumulatively. So like if you got 900,000 watching here and 2.3 million watching here, whatever it is, they add it up. They show it to Madison Avenue, the advertisers, and say, "See, this is how many people are watching our games." And let me make sure I clarify myself. The playoff starts in 24, so one more season like we have now, and then it starts. I said 25, but I was talking about the championship game being in January of 2025, but it starts in the 24 season, just to be clear. All right, let's hit the break, and we'll come back with more and discuss this. Take your phone calls, 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. And since 2002, more than $572 million in lottery proceeds have been used to fund Palmetto Fellows scholarships for the state's college-bound students. Learn more about the lottery's impact at sceducationlottery.com/educationwins. Playing for fun is a win for education. We're over at Benedict College, where they did nothing but win football games all season long until that playoff loss last weekend. But they had a great season here. We're back in a moment.
Hi, I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and I've got a great gift idea that requires zero shopping, the gift of college savings. Future Scholar, South Carolina's 529 college savings plan makes it easy. Grandparents, friends, and family can all contribute to a Future Scholar account and know that they're providing a gift that will last a lifetime. If you're looking for the perfect gift this holiday season, look no further. Learn more about the smart, easy way to save and give this holiday season at futurescholar.com.
When your day calls for some winning, why not watch your favorite football team at Dave & Buster's? We've got massive HD TVs and hundreds of the hottest new games. Sip from our chef-crafted cocktail menu with exclusive drinks such as the Strawberry Watermelon Margarita or Dangerous Waters. Cheer on the team with Cantina Nachos or wings featuring one of our 12 wings flavors. When your day calls for some winning, it's time for Dave & Buster's, where you can watch the games and play the games. Locations in Greenville, Columbia, and Myrtle Beach.
Touchstone Energy Cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
In Columbia, South Carolina, game days are our specialty. Whether you're watching the game from inside the stadium or from the big screen at your favorite local spot, the energy remains the same. Craft the perfect fall Saturday in a city where there is plenty of action on and off the field. From tubing and kayaking to Soda City to rooftop restaurants and plenty barbecue. We're ready when you are. Plan your weekend at experiencecolumbiasc.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Talk from Benedict College on this Thursday night. We're here for the 3A state championship football game between Beaufort and Powdersville. And we'll be back here tomorrow night for the 1A and 2A championship games. And on Saturday, you've got the 4A and 5A games in reverse order, 5A first at noon and then 4A at 7. So come on out and watch some high school football. Chris, I heard what you were saying at the outset. Yeah, I mean, I missed the weekend of champions where they had it at Williams-Brice Stadium and they played on a Friday night and they played on Saturday. But the problem is apparently that the USC requires too much of a payment from the high school league for the use of their stadium, even though when Clemson hosted it, they didn't charge anything because they went out and got sponsors, I guess, to help offset the cost. So I don't really understand. And I don't know their budgets, and I'm not in their bank account, but I really can't understand why USC or Clemson would need any help to host the high school championship games. I would think it would be more to their benefit to have these fans and these players and these coaches on their campus in their stadium for several hours. How much does it cost? I don't know, $30,000, $40,000. Okay, that's chump change to these people. You know, they pay coaches $10 million. Then they could squeeze out $30,000 to host the state championship games, more or less 30. Maybe it's a little more than that now because they've gone up to a fifth class. So you've got 5 championship games. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. You could buy a ticket and stay all day and watch 3 or 4 games.
But remember, we also used to have 2 classes in 4A. We split the 4A and 1A also had 2 classifications for a while as well. True. So you had the 1A big boys and the 1A little boys. No other way to say it, but that was sort of the mindset. Before we get to calls, though, a quick question for you. Of the 5 games this weekend, which do you think is going to be the most competitive?
Oh, man, you'd have to ask David that. You'd like to see competitive games up and down the lines just to have some excitement in state championship games. I don't know. I'm gonna just throw a guess out there that Fort Dorchester and Dutch Fork could be a great one.
Yeah.
I think Fort D is good. We know Dutch Fork is good as well. They both have got tons of talents. They're well coached. They put a lot of money into their program. So see no reason why that one wouldn't be one that would go, down to the wire. But we'll get David's take on the two games tomorrow, the 2A and the 1A championship games, when he joins us in our second hour. We'll take some calls after the break. Be right back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here is tonight's forecast. We're clear and cold overnight with the low dipping down below freezing. We'll bottom out at 30 degrees. Tomorrow, a mix of sun and clouds, a high up to 59. And for the weekend, look for a 20 to 30% chance of a shower both Saturday and Sunday. But warmer, temps back up to 71 on Saturday, the low 60s for Sunday. Next week looks like a wet one for us. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On Point local weather.
Hey, it's the Cigar Militia. We want to thank the Midlands for a wonderful first year. Thank you for helping us grow. We had no idea we had so many good friends out there. One thing I love about the cigar culture is we all have our favorite brands, but we're also willing to try new ones too. Come in and get your old standby, or have one of our knowledgeable staff members walk you through the humidor to your new favorite. We're at 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard in the same plaza as the Melting Pot Restaurant.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting legislation to avert a freight rail strike in the United States is headed to President Biden's desk. A bill to avoid the strike won final approval Thursday, clearing the Senate in a bipartisan vote. The bill will bind rail companies and workers to a proposed settlement that was reached between the rail companies and union leaders in September. That settlement had been rejected by 4 of the 12 unions involved, creating the possibility of a strike. The Senate vote was 80-15. Baseball Hall of Famer and two-time Cy Young Award winner Gaylord Perry has died at the age of 84. Cherokee County Coroner Dennis Fowler said Perry died at his home in Gaffney, South Carolina at about 5 a.m. Thursday. The Perry family said that Perry died after a short illness. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 194 points. The Nasdaq rose 14. More details at srnnews.com.
Open enrollment. It can be a confusing, frustrating time, but it doesn't have to be. You're seeing celebs doing TV ads, billboards everywhere. You're inundated. At Medicare Blueprint, they help with Mom's Medicare plan. I called them, gave them the basics on Mom and her meds. They did everything else. Tim and his team do this full-time, year-round. If you call them, they talk to you. They take you through the whole process. Nothing outsourced. They do the work. A local number, a local guy. Medicare Blueprint doesn't work for the insurance companies. They work for you. Tim knows this industry. He's been advocating for people like us for a long time. Go to his website, MedicareBlueprint.com. Look at the testimonials from people all over the Midlands. If Tim can help you, he will. If he can't help you today and thinks you're already in a better plan than he can find for you, he'll tell you because it's the right thing to do. Next time around, you'll remember his honesty. You'll call him when you need his help again. MedicareBlueprint.com or give him a call, 803-708-7398. That's 708-7398 for Medicare Blueprint.
Every animal deserves a home for the holidays. Instead of getting the kids video games, get them a new member of the family. Dogs and cats make great family additions. The Columbia Animal Shelter reminds you there are wonderful and loving dogs and cats available for immediate adoption. Visit petfinder.com to see these puppies and kitties. Adoptions are just $25 for the entire month of December. The kids will never be happier, and you'll give an animal a family and a home. Online at petfinder.com. Happy holidays from the Columbia Animal Shelter.
You've seen the news. You've talked to your friends. You may have even looked around yourself. Home prices are nuts. Seems like no one is offering any kind of discount, except Lexington Discount Homes. Discount is their middle name. Quality homes that fit your budget with the size, model, and floor plan that your family needs. You can still afford your dream home at Lexington Discount Homes. Augusta Highway near Ballpark Road, 803-951-1900 or LexingtonDiscountHomes.com.
Jingle bells, shotgun shells. Your Christmas should always start at Shooter's Choice. Hey, I know you're wanting that new gun for Christmas. Time to get shopping for it right now at Shooter's Choice on Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia. Are you looking for a Benelli, Browning, Henry, Glock, Sig, Springfield, or Ruger, maybe some other popular brand? Let the experienced staff at Shooter's Choice help you make the right decision for your perfect holiday gift. If it's hunting or personal concealed carry, or just that new gun you've been waiting for, with Shooter's Choice holiday season promotions, they've got you covered. In stock, on the shelf, ready for you to check out. not catalog pictures or internet photos. You have the real deal to hold and compare. And if you're not sure what you may need for that special someone, make it simple with a gift card. You can't go wrong with that. So do your shopping locally at Shooter's Choice on Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia, or shop online at shooterschoicesc.com. Make your first choice, your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
All right, coming up tonight here on Sports Talk, we're at Benedict College for the 3A state championship games. And a little bit after 7 o'clock, we'll have the pastor of Payne, Corey Miller, for his final Thursday night visit of the football season, maybe until the bowl games. Will and the Thrill at the bottom of the hour. Can't wait to get to what they have to say. At
How excited do
7:30,
you think Carl Hill is for this? I bet he's been waiting since Saturday afternoon at about 3:30 to jump on the show.
Is Will still a 10 on the rivalry meter at this point?
Yeah, really. No, he
Will
sent me
show
a
up
text
tonight?
and said it's at a 0. He said it's at a 0. And Carl sent me a picture of a gambling ticket that I guess he cashed in that he won $200 and something on the Gamecocks, you know.
Yeah.
So, hey, at least he backs up his opinion
Indeed.
with his money. I'm just looking here. Oh, and then David Shelton also coming up to preview high school football. So you can buy tickets for the ACC championship game on secondary market. This is StubHub. I'm seeing tickets for $54, $53, $65. So, you know.
I mean,
that's
it's still a big
not,
deal, right?
It's
I
not
mean, it's
dirt
a
cheap,
conference
but
championship game.
yeah,
But yeah, I just
you're playing
just
for a
think
trophy.
Yeah, I just think, like you pointed out, the buzz off of both of these teams, and North Carolina can say, you know, Duke or NC State, whatever rival they have. I would think in football, it's certainly NC State more so than Duke. But both of these teams coming off rivalry losses, the teams and the fans may be a little down, but still, it's a big deal, I would think, this weekend.
One word, guys, recruiting.
Good point.
Mac Brown this week he said, quote, "They've beaten us a bunch in recruiting," talking about Clemson. Most of the guys on our team were not even offered by them. So there's a lot of great players on their team that I've tried to recruit that decided to go down there, and they've got a great program. And then just looking over the years, you've had big players like Peyton Page, the blue chip defensive tackle out of Greensboro, who was at both and ultimately came to Clemson. You've had Tony Grimes, a star cornerback out of Virginia, but he came down to basically North Carolina and Clemson. You've had Jaden Lucas, Dalen Everett. Will Shipley is one that both teams, along with Notre Dame, were really heavily after. So I would think even if this game may not quite have the same meaning in terms of college football playoff implications, it's still bragging rights for the conference. And also these two programs go after so many of the same prospects out of high school that there's a lot of meaning there.
Especially in
You're
Charlotte.
exactly right.
Yeah.
When you're playing for a trophy, man, you're playing for something. Whether it's the Mayor's Cup or the ACC championship, you're playing for a little something extra, and we'll see how these teams respond. Will they be enthusiastic? They're both coming off rival game losses and disappointing ends to their regular season. Do they get the juices flowing again? I think they will. Once they get on the field, kick it off, start knocking each other around. And the question is going to be when we start talking about the game is, how well is DJ Uiagalelei going to play for Clemson? I was watching the game again last night, and one thing that kind of struck me more about him, watching him against South Carolina, he seemed awfully robotic out there. He didn't seem smooth. It seemed like he was playing like he was coached. Like, okay, now, DJ, when you take the snap, you want to pump fake over here. Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, it was like nothing was natural. It was all choreographed. He just seemed very robotic out there. Now they're going to be facing a quarterback who is dynamic, and he's got maybe the best receiver in the ACC, or certainly one of the top 2 or 3 in downs. And Clemson's secondary, they're going to be without Mickens for the first half, and their secondary was toast against South Carolina on many big plays down the field, as we saw. So is North Carolina going to take advantage of that? How is Clemson going to counter? They're going to run the ball. They're going to run Shipley till his tongue hangs out. They probably should, and throw some Moffitt in there and Kobe Pace. Yeah, just run it. I mean, North Carolina's defense has gotten a little bit better than it was earlier in the year, but it's still not that good. So look, the fourth string quarterback for NC State, he threw for 250 yards on him last week. He was the fourth stringer.
I know.
So.
And Jack Chambers,
all right, let's get to the phone calls.
Scored the first touchdown of the game.
He sure did. Speaking of coaches, let me mention this. Wofford today announced that they have hired their new coach, and they are just promoting from within. Sean Watson, not Deshaun, but Sean Watson, who was hired in January as assistant head coach, offensive coordinator, took over as the interim coach when Josh Conklin resigned in October. And today, Richard Johnson announced that Sean Watson would be the permanent head coach. Won 3 games down the stretch for the Terriers. So he is highly regarded. He's an experienced coach. He's an older coach. He's been in big-time programs. I think he's been a head coach in the past. And so he's going to be the new guy at Wofford moving forward. Okay, we go to your phone calls. 888-898-2525. That is the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. We go to Anthony in Leesville. First with us tonight on Sports Talk. Anthony, welcome in. How are you?
Hey, Phil, I'm doing fine. I just kind of had some rambling observations. First of all, I agree completely with you guys about the college playoff and the expansion. Everybody's running pell-mell to do that. I think 4 is plenty, and I think, you associate college football with the Christmas and New Year holidays and with the bowls and so forth, and it wraps up pretty quickly even with the current system. And now it's just going to move out into late January. And, I think you guys were spot on when you talked about the regular season just won't mean much anymore. And I really think it's going to dilute college football and probably even fans' interest over time. A couple other things I want to mention. One, I saw today that Dabo Swinney's record as a head coach against Carolina is 8-6. And if you take out the Muschamp years, he has a significant losing record against South Carolina, which is interesting given how successful Clemson's been during that period of time. Arguably South Carolina has been the most successful team against Clemson since Dabo's been there. And then lastly, I guess you guys saw today there was some interview with Dabo in which he talked about making or requiring everybody in his facility, including secretaries and other staff, to watch the game, to watch the tape of the game with Carolina from Saturday. And I thought, how ridiculous is that? I mean, Dabo is a talker, and he just talks too darn much for his own good sometimes. I mean, his mouth gets into more trouble. But that's the stupidest thing in the world. Yeah, come on. How stupid is it to drag your secretaries or whatever other staff you got in the facility and say, we're all going to sit here and relive this pain all over again? I mean, he's a boob half the time. Come on, truth be known. Let's be serious. I mean, he's had a great program and all that good stuff, but he doesn't know when to shut up. That's his problem.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the call. I'm not aware of that. Was that an interview he did?
It was
radio,
on
TV.
Yeah, the SEC podcast, or that SEC podcast, which is interesting that Dabo will even be on there. But I think Eric McLean is on there as well. So somewhat of a Atlantic Coast Conference Clemson tie. But, I mean, good grief. Was there anybody in his building that didn't watch the game to begin with? I mean,
well, you got to understand,
Dabo,
first of all, he is no stranger to hyperbole. It's my word of the day.
I love
it. I'm sure he was saying that more like, tongue-in-cheek. Everybody's going to go back and have to watch it. Keep in mind, this is the guy that implemented when the Gamecocks were in that winning streak, he implemented a countdown clock that started right after the one game ended, and he had a 365-day countdown clock to the next one. Remember that? Because he was trying to emphasize to him and to his players the importance of winning that South Carolina game. And again, his comment at his press conference on Tuesday spoke volumes. It is not acceptable to Clemson to lose to that program. That's how he put it, or to lose that game. It's not acceptable for this program to lose that, emphasis on that game. And that's why, he looked, after the game, he looked like a ghost, look, he'd seen a ghost. It looked like, his best, he'd just come from a funeral. I mean, he took that loss, and he should, as Shane Beamer would take the loss hard going the other way. It should mean something. It should mean more than, look, to me, there's no bigger game for any school than the rivalry game, whether it's Harvard, Yale, Michigan, Ohio State, Southern Cal, UCLA, USC, Clemson, Florida. That is what is the essence of college football. Yeah. This other nonsense is just to pour money in the people's pockets. And there's a lot of people who've gotten very, very wealthy as a result of this and stand to do more. And listen, I want to say this too. I know we come across anytime there's something new related to college football or basketball or whatever, we come across as those, the sour heads. We're just poo-pooing everything that's viewed as so-called progress in the sport. I didn't like the idea of the college football playoff to begin with, and I knew they wouldn't settle at 4 for very long. And they, how long has the college football playoff been in existence with 4? Going on about 15 years or so with it, I think.
Has it been that long?
And now it's going to go to.
Has it been that long?
Well, maybe I'm tying it in with the with its predecessor too, but yeah, Pat can look that up. I know he is. And now we're going to go to 12, and eventually there'll be enough clamoring about 10, 11, 12, who's getting in, who's getting out, who's this team with 4 losses really should be in over that team with 3 losses because they're in this league and they've played this schedule and they have this kind of analytics, and then they'll say, okay, well, let's just expand it to 24 then, and on it goes to where, you're going to be giving everybody a trophy here before it's all said and done, and making the regular season practically less meaningful than it is now. And I don't know how it can get much less meaningful than it is at this particular time as they keep adding more and more playoff games and putting in more teams with multiple losses. I can think back not too long ago, you'd never consider having a team with multiple losses in a major bowl game or in a playoff situation.
Well, I would ask this of those of you who are big proponents of expansion of the playoffs and you don't think it's going to ruin the regular season. How many of you watch college basketball in the late December, early January?
Outside of tournaments, of course, too. Yeah, and outside of like the Big Ten ACC Challenge and the Maui Invitational and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's continue with the calls.
The regular season of college basketball.
Oh yeah,
and there's no
this
way
has
to
done the same
argue
thing.
Otherwise,
it's made the focus the playoffs, and this is what kind of like what Dabo Swinney is dealing with now. He's got a 10-win team. He's playing for an ACC championship, but he's not in the playoffs, and his people, the fans, Clemson fans, being natural fans who kind of got used to going to the playoffs and enjoyed it. This is 2 years in a row, and the question is, what's wrong with our program? 10 wins, but not making the playoffs, that's not going to be good enough for programs like that. And that will actually spread throughout college football. It is. It's kind of sad. Yeah, absolutely.
Corn, I've got an example
we
for
continue.
You. Sorry, last thing before you go back to the callers. Sorry, callers. An example for you, again, I like to sometimes hide the fact that I went to Clemson, but whatever. Everybody at this point knows. I am in a group chat with a bunch of friends from college, and they are all big-time Clemson football fans, most of which are season ticket holders, blah, blah, blah. Where I'm going with this is I had a buddy in that group text actually this morning text out to the other 8 of us or so in the group would anybody like my 3 tickets to the ACC championship game this weekend for free?
There you go.
So he has no interest. He and his wife and whoever the third was have no interest in going anymore, and we're just straight up handing them out for free. So that, I'm not saying that's all Clemson fans, but that tells you something.
Which does bring up the next question, and that is to the team that regularly makes the playoffs. You know, the ones that don't make it regularly, they are in there every so often, their fans are going to be excited. But for the teams that are there every year, how much are you asking of your fans? You're asking them, of course, to give to your scholarship club. Then you're asking them to give to your NIL. Then you're asking them to buy season tickets. Then you're asking them to pay for a ticket to come to a playoff game on your campus a few days before Christmas or right after Christmas and around New Year's. And if you happen to win that game and have to travel, then they're asking you to go and travel to that game and then travel to how much you're going to keep, bleeding your people, and when are you going to start losing people as a result of that who just say, I just can't do it anymore, I mean, there's some people who won't matter to, but I got to believe it's the majority of people who are going to reach a limit at some point in time. As much as they love their team and as much as they want to support, they're going to reach their limit at some point in time. We better hit our break because we're going to get tied in here, and then we'll come back with more phone calls. I blame Pat for putting us in this situation.
My fault.
888-898-2525 is the number, and we'll get back to phone calls in just a moment. Brian Kelly announced Jaden Daniels will play quarterback against Georgia on Saturday. He's been banged up a little bit. Mike Elko of Duke, the ACC Coach of the Year, he got 44 votes. Mike Norvell got 18. Brent Key, Mac Brown, and Dabo Sweeney, they got 1 vote each. And we'll be back.
You were always more than my mom. You were my role model, my best friend, and biggest supporter. You filled my days with unconditional love. And you also prepared for the day when you couldn't be here. Because of the woman you were back then, I'm able to be the woman I am now. Your planning made this moment possible.
Set your family up for life. Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance. Your friends for life.
Life insurance isn't for you. It's for those you love the most. For a complete insurance review, call Buddy Bridges in Lawrence County at 864-923-2174, serving Lawrence, Clinton, and the shores of Lake Greenwood.
Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company, Jackson, Mississippi. Not licensed to do business in all 50 states.
When your day calls for some winning, why not watch your favorite football team at Dave & Buster's? We've got massive HD TVs and hundreds of the hottest new games. Sit from our chef-crafted cocktail menu with exclusive drinks such as the Strawberry Watermelon Margarita or Dangerous Waters. Cheer on the team with Cantina Nachos or wings featuring one of our 12 wing flavors. When your day calls for some winning, it's time for Dave & Buster's, where you can watch the games and play the games. Locations in Greenville, Columbia, and Myrtle Beach.
Thank you. Thank you for world-traveling rocket scientists, for tires bigger than your grandma's house, for 3D printing research, for artists in residency. Thank you for all the things that take us to the next level. Thank you for playing the lottery, for funding scholarships, for funding grants, for funding innovation in this state. Thank you. The South Carolina Education Lottery. When you play, we all win.
South Carolina's taste buds have spoken, and they're asking for beef. There are more than 7,800 farms raising cattle from pasture to plate in the Palmetto State. So whether it's steaks on the grill before the big game, sirloin medallions plated for date night, or burgers with a family, make sure beef is a part of your playbook this football season. Smoked, grilled, and slow roasted. Find the best way to enjoy your beef at sccattle.org. Beef, it's what's for dinner in South Carolina. Funded by the South Carolina Beef Council, part of the Beef Checkoff Program.
We are back at Benedict. We're here for the 3A championship game tonight. Fans are filing in, as you might expect. Looking forward to the football game. Kicking off a little bit after 7. Let's get back to your phone calls. Appreciate the patience. we go next to Hank in Columbia. I think it is. And the CFP began in 2014, so it's only in its current format about 7 years, 8 years old. Yeah. Hank, welcome into Sports Talk. By the way, if you didn't notice, the Gamecock men's basketball team lost last night at George Washington. Chris, how'd you like the headline on my story?
I loved it. I thought you were spot on about it. Can't tell a lie. George Washington chops down South Carolina. I thought it was very, very clever. And when we get a minute, I want to touch on what
we'll touch on history there.
I thought it was great. I do want to touch on what Lamont Paris had to say last night about his team and comparing it to AAU basketball. I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it is. Go ahead, Hank. Welcome in.
Hey, Corn. I can agree with the effect that it'll have on the bowls, but I'm gonna be a little contrarian to all this. The playoff is horrible situation. You say it's gonna water down the regular season. Actually, it would do no different than the first playoffs, because when they went to the first playoffs, a lot of teams, after they got their first loss or second loss, you could see a lot of teams go strange ways because they were cashing it in, because basically there were only 3 or 4 teams that were going to be in it. And then it got to the point where players were opting out after the second week of and sitting out so they could go transfer someplace else because it was the same 4. So, I think that when you look at it, it's going to provide some interest. And you can't tell me Georgia, all this week, people talked about Georgia putting a score on LSU if they could to ensure that they're going to be right there in Atlanta, which is almost like a home game. So those teams that want to get a bye and the teams that want to get a home game, they're going to still be working to get those because it's an advantage to winning, just like in basketball and baseball when teams try to get those first 2 round games at home in the sports that they're possible. And so I just, the thing going to the middle of January, well, we had that same saying when they went from the national championship game being on the 1st to going to the 11th or whatever. But you still see people watching. Remember, everybody said they weren't going to watch because it was New Year's Day and New Year's Eve, and then the numbers were mind-blowing. So
because we're addicts. We're addicts. Yeah, we cannot not watch. That's the problem, and they know that.
And so people are not
going to. They know we're going to watch.
And remember, Corn, the whole thing about the students on campus thing when they went to 12 games. Remember, you gave that same speech about students as far as the football games. You looked at that hill in Clemson. They all found their way back there to that game on Thanksgiving weekend. A lot of them went back home after the game.
There's enough
because the doors weren't open.
Yep. There's enough who live. There's enough who live nearby. Yeah, there's enough who live nearby who can go home and come back for the game. I get that. If you do happen to live far away, you're not coming back for the game, and that's kind of unfair. But
a lot of them drove up.
That's the way it is. Yeah,
I
get that.
You look at that hill. A lot of them drove just like the parents would drive on a regular weekend day.
The hill only seats only handles about 1,500 or so, because they've made them. The fire marshal has made them. Fire marshal has made them cut that down some because it was. I think I don't know
like
the
more than
exact
1,500 to me. I was on the opposite end of the stadium looking at that hill. That looked like way more than 1,500 people on that hill Saturday.
Right. So, but I mean, the point I'm trying to make, and I guess those of us who kind of aren't in favor of all this constant changing is, why are you changing something that was already good? It's like talk of changing the NCAA basketball tournament.
But
yes, it is. I mean, look, this year you're going to have. This year, listen to me. This year, you stand to have a new team in TCU and a new team in Southern Cal. All right, you got a couple of holdovers in Georgia and Michigan. Eventually, Georgia and Michigan are going to, I hate to use this word, but they're going to cycle out. Teams cycle in, they cycle out. Clemson now is out. Ohio State is out. Oklahoma is out. You're going to get more and more fresh blood because the transfer portal is certainly going to play a role in spreading the talent. Buying players via NIL is going to spread the talent even more for those who want to participate in that. So I think you would see different teams.
But
more
one year,
regularly in the 4-team playoff.
A 1 year sample size is not statistically viable. If you go over the 7 years, you had 5 or 6 teams, or 4 or 5 teams that made up 90% of the playoff. And
I
so
agree, but
people were getting tired of it.
I agree, and we got to run. Well, I don't know if they were getting tired of it because I think the ratings were still pretty good, weren't they? And I mean, that's the figure that counts more than anything else. Be right back.
By the way, before we do what's supposed to happen here, thank you for pushing the button. I thank you. Programming thanks you. America thanks you.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Both the House and the Senate have passed legislation that would avert a rail strike that would begin December 9th. Despite protests from some rail unions, the paid sick leave is not included in the agreement. President Biden says negotiators should take up paid leave for rail workers separately.
It doesn't mean because we are going to pass this, God willing, by Friday, by the time, by the weekend, that I'm going to back off of paid leave. I made it really clear I'm going to continue to fight for paid leave for not only rail workers, but for all American workers.
The Senate vote was 80-15. It came one day after the House voted to impose the agreement. The measure now goes to President Biden's desk for his signature. The United States and France are both committed to continued support of Ukraine. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
In a display of cross-Atlantic solidarity, Presidents Biden and Macron expressed unwavering support for the Ukrainians who are under attack by Russia.
We must support the Ukrainian people.
And what is at stake in Ukraine is not just very far from here, in a small country somewhere in Europe, but it's about our values.
The leaders spoke at a joint White House news conference during Macron's state visit. Greg Clugston, Washington.
The Supreme Court says the Biden administration program to cancel student loans will remain blocked for now, but the justices have agreed to take up the case in late winter. The court's decision to hear arguments relatively quickly means it's likely to determine whether the widespread loan cancellations are legal by late June. That's about 2 months before the newly extended pause on loan repayments is set to expire. A mixed day on Wall Street as the Dow was down by 194 points. The Nasdaq rose 14. The S&P declined 3. Oil up to $81.22 a barrel. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Hi, my name's Adam Barada. I'm the owner of Advantage Gold, the highest rated precious metals firm in the country. Now, we've won the Best of TrustLink Award 4 years in a row because we educate our clients on how to buy gold and silver the right way. We don't pay celebrity spokespeople millions of dollars. We'd rather pass that value on to you. Call 800-900-8000 and speak with one of our experts. We'll send you a free gold kit along with my latest national best-selling book, The Great Devaluation. Call 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
For investing.
The U.S.-funded radio network Voice of America says the Taliban have banned their FM broadcasts in Afghanistan.
The VOA said the Taliban had also banned Radio Free Europe, also known as Radio Liberty, from broadcasting in Afghanistan. Both VOA and Radio Liberty are funded by the US government, although they claim editorial independence. The Taliban said the radio services repeatedly contravened their new press laws. The Taliban took over Afghanistan in August 2021, as America and NATO were in the final weeks of their pullout from the country after 20 years of war. I'm Karen Chavas.
The European Union's edging closer to a $60 per barrel price cap on Russian oil. It's a highly anticipated and complex political and economic maneuver designed to keep Russian oil flowing into global markets while clamping down on President Putin's ability to fund his war in Ukraine. News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. on 107 The Point.
Here is tonight's forecast. We're clear and cold overnight with the low dipping down below freezing. We'll bottom out at 30 degrees. Tomorrow, a mix of sun and clouds, a high up to 59. And for the weekend, look for a 20 to 30% chance of a shower both Saturday and Sunday. But warmer, temps back up to 71 on Saturday, the low 60s for Sunday. Next week looks like a wet one for us. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point. Ooh, you shouldn't have pressed that button. Oh. Now you get this.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Okay, we're back with you here on Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network on this Thursday night. It is state championship night here in Columbia as we get the first of the 5 state championship games underway. We've got the 3A title game, Powdersville, from up there in near Easley. Well, I remember Powdersville. Chris, you know Powdersville well. You're an upstate guy. I can remember when Powdersville was nothing but like a little crossroad. That place has really blown up and got a nice high school, and now their football team is playing for a state championship for the first time against Beaufort. And then we've got 2 games tomorrow and 2 games on Saturday as well. So that's why we are here to keep an eye on this, and we'll have a coverage on our website, sportstalksc.com, for you. Later on this evening, you'll hear from the winning side, and we'll do that throughout the weekend. Talking about Clemson and North Carolina coming up, and talking about the expansion of the playoffs. Let's welcome in for his final visit with us. Maybe we'll get him back around the bowl game time. Welcome in the pastor of Payne, Corey Miller, once again to Sports Talk POP. Great to have you with us. How you doing?
I am doing wonderful, and what a great Thursday to be with you guys. I'm driving back from Greenville, taping our final season show. Of course, we'll do a bowl show on Fox Carolina News here up in the upstate. But, boy, it feels good to be able to walk into the studio, bloviating with my chest out, with a big smile on my face, and saying something that Mom and Dad used to say to me all the time, Phil. And that was,
what's that?
I told you so. I told you so. And it's like, nobody's ever liked that, but it's like, man, I hated when they said that to me. I told you so, because you knew they were right. So I'm feeling really, really good on this day.
Boy, I tell you what, if you're poking that chest out, then that thing's already sticking out a good. You know, I saw you guys on Friday. I was in the upstate, and I had you guys on television back in the hotel, and I couldn't believe how much taller Patrick Sapp is than you are, or maybe you've shrunk a little bit.
Well, I think he has high heels on under the desk. So I'm a solid 6'2" and 3/4, buddy.
Well, you
Only
did a great
Corey
job.
Miller could say that about Patrick Sapp and get away with it.
That's right. You did a great job. So how would you sum up the Gamecock win over Clemson, looking at it objectively, if you can? What made the difference in the game for South Carolina?
Well, I think it was just the ability to overcome mistakes early in the first quarter, getting down 14-0 and not losing their focus. On the road in a hostile environment, it would have been easy just kind of to fall on the sword, if you will. They didn't do that. They kept fighting. They kept believing. I thought you got to have a very positive mindset, knowing who you are and what you can accomplish, and they did that. And so they came back, made some great plays. Offensively, the defense hung in there. They were giving up a ton of yards on the ground, but they did what they had to do in special teams. I mean, Beamer ball was in full effect. So, I was very proud of this football team. Coach Beamer been telling us that this is a good football team, and they really are. And, they made big plays. And, of course, the second half was defensively. They've been doing this all season long, where they struggled in the first half but made adjustments and only giving up 86 yards of offense in the second half. So, what a masterful game plan, masterful commitment to what you had for the game plan is concerned. And you know, the great win. I mean, Clemson is a good football team, and it's hard to go on the road, 40 in a row. But one thing I said, if you watch the show, in my pep talk, I talk about the year of streaks ending. And South Carolina has done that all season long with Texas A&M, you know, stopping that streak against Kentucky, getting a big win over Tennessee. And then Clemson had won 40 straight games at home, and they ended that streak. And, of course, play spoiler once again, the team that was hoping to get into the college football playoffs. So what a wonderful game. Well coached. And, you know, kudos to those players, man, in that locker room for not listening to the naysayers and using that as motivation.
Corey, you talked about the mindset of the Gamecocks, and one thing Shane Beamer has talked about even after the Florida loss or following the Tennessee game is this is not the same Carolina. Our fan base needs to jump on board and trust us because we've got a good football team. How much does confidence play into a game like a rivalry game with Clemson when you played at USC? In terms of confidence, had they lost to Tennessee, do you see the same type fire and energy and the same type team that we saw on Saturday, or did the Tennessee win maybe buoy them to beat Clemson on Saturday?
Well, I think winning that game against Tennessee obviously gave you a ton of confidence because you knew as a player, as coaches, that you're good enough. And they didn't just win the game in a close one against Tennessee. They dominated. You know, they dominated the entire football game. And so, yes, you come into this game knowing that, hey, if we can do this against a team that people thought until they played South Carolina was one of the best team in the country. A lot of people have said that. So, yes, a boatload of confidence. And then when you got down, you didn't have that, here we go again. Had they lost to Tennessee, it would have been easy to just really go the opposite way. So, yes, when winning breeds winning. I mean, it's important when you get those types of wins, man, it breeds more winning because you believe in yourself. You believe in the confidence. The coach can say all he wants in front, in his pep talks, in the meeting rooms, but if you're losing and bad things are happening, it's easy to fall back into that trap. But yes, by winning that game against Tennessee, definitely bode well for the Gamecocks, and I think it gave them more encouragement. Hey, even though we're down early, we're going to come back. We're going to win this football game, and that was the message as I listened to, Coach Beamer speaking to the team at halftime, and the things that he said, it really translated well onto the football field.
Visiting with the pastor of Payne, Corey Miller, here on Sports Talk for a few more minutes. So, Dabo Swinney on Tuesday said it is not acceptable for his program to lose that game. And it's come up tonight. It's been reported. He was on a podcast and he made the comment that he made everybody in the building, the secretaries, everybody else, rewatch that game. I guess maybe as punishment, maybe in lieu of a raise. You guys didn't do your job well enough. We're not giving you a raise, but you have to watch the game over and over again, as if they wouldn't have watched it anyway. My point is that he took this loss very hard, and he let it be known that it's not something that should happen to Clemson, losing to South Carolina. Does South Carolina view it the same way from where you sit?
Well, listen, man, I mean, there's change happening at South Carolina through Shane Beamer. We talk about the culture. We talk about, the climate of this football team and having that confidence again that you're just as good, and in this case, you're better than that football team. I mean, any coach can say that. Watch it all you want to, but that doesn't change what happens down the road of 385 to 26. What they're saying in the locker room, and they're saying that, hey, we should win this game every single year. I mean, so, yeah, that's all fine and dandy, and that's Dabo using his tactics of, it's unacceptable and all this stuff. But listen, man, I played this game a long time. That really doesn't matter. It's all about, it's all about working from summer, fall to the season and going out there and executing a game plan, having the talent to get things done, and you see what happens. So, listen, I understand for them it might Patrick said tonight on our TV show that it was a shot. Well, yeah, it's all good, but things are changing. I wanted to remind him that things are changing, Dabo Swinney, and South Carolina has all the resources, have talent. They're going to get more talent because that game is going to help lift up recruiting, and they're not scared. This is something that's going to happen over again. And so I can see a streak continuing for South Carolina. You got to come down to the Bryce next year. So this team is only going to get better. So, yeah, I get where he's coming from. He's trying to, to get into the minds of his players. I don't have no problem with that. But listen, man, those other guys in the locker room, those 115, 20 guys, they're not listening to that message because they're saying, hey, this can happen over and over again because we're good enough. We're good enough to beat Clemson every single year, and we need to get that in our brain. So do what he needs to do. But I know what happened on Saturday. That South Carolina came into your backyard, Will. Where's Will at it? Is he still crying? We came into your backyard, and we did what Mike Tyson did, and we just took your heart out. And you know what? It's time for change. And I said it to the players, and I'm saying it again to all Gamecock fans. We shouldn't be looked down to this Clemson Tiger program. We are the University of South Carolina. They are our little brothers. We are the standard. And you got to have a mindset of setting the standard. Okay? Period.
Somewhere my point about being objective went out the window. Yeah.
I'm afraid to ask you something. Now I'm all fired up. Corey, though, coming off the win, obviously this week has been big for the Gamecocks, but also now losing offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield. If you were Shane Beamer, what direction do you go? We heard so much about Marcus Satterfield wanted to run a pro-style offense. First off, what does that mean? And does he have to get somebody in a similar fashion, or does he go a different route with the OC?
Well, I think you got to go with a good fit. Who fits the program? Who fits the direction in which this team is trying to go? What do you want your identity to be? And to me, with the talent that you have, you want to open things up. You want to play fast. You want to use tempo, get guys in space, let them work one-on-one like Juice Wells did to get that first down to end the ball game. I mean, you got those types of players, so you got to have an offensive play caller that's innovative. That's got that sharp number 2 pencil that can draw up plays. And pro style is good if you got the talent to do that, right? If you got a massive, very physical offensive line that can knock guys off the ball and can use physical downhill running and sets up play action pass, that's what we talk about, using the tight ends, 12 and 13 personnel, play action pass. So that's a pro style. But today's college world, you got to score points. Alabama, to me, was a pro-style offense back in the day. LSU, when they wanted a man-on-man, mano-a-mano, just wear you down and dominate in the fourth quarter. That's pro-style football. But I think with the athletes that if you want to get big-time receivers, if you want to get playmakers, you got to be more open. So I think you're looking for a guy that comes in with that system, and you go out and get quick, speedy guys, quick twitch guys that can get loose in space and make people miss and get plays for you when you need them. So I think that's the direction in which he's going because that's when South Carolina has had success. When they've opened up the offense, they've done very well. You got a quarterback in Spencer Rattler. Hopefully he stays around. That can spin it, that can make all the throws, and you get him comfortable, and you go play football. So I'm hoping that's the direction he goes.
All right, Corey, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for jumping on board with us this evening. I'm sure you'll enjoy the entire post-Carolina Clemson week, and hopefully we can catch back up with you when the Gamecocks are in their bowl destination.
Well, tell Will, I'm praying for him. One thing as a preacher, you offer comfort, you offer some peace, because I know he's still crying. I got some tissues for him. I want to rub his back and let him know, get used to this.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Payne. Appreciate it. Great stuff as always. We'll get back with you around the bowl time. By the way, I just got a text from Will. I know this isn't going to sound good. He was scheduled to be with us. He had confirmed it, but something's come up, he said, in his business, with his business, and he's going to be tied up. So Will is not going to be with us tonight. We'll get him another time, maybe around the bowl time.
Hopefully we get him on next week, Phil, and we can recap the ACC title game with him as well. So
that'd be a good idea.
That would work. Yeah,
that would fit. We have a score in the 3A state championship game. Powdersville took the opening drive, went right down the field, primarily, if not entirely, on the ground. It looks like
impressive.
Entirely on the ground, and they have gone in front of Beaufort by a score of 7-0. And they've got a terrific player who's committed to Virginia Tech, Thomas Williams. He had a 30-yard run on the drive. Their quarterback, Eli Hudgens, is quite good. He had some runs as well where he picked up yardage. But Williams had that 30-yard run, got him down the field. And let's see, the 7-play, 65-yard drive and it was actually Hudgens, the quarterback, who kept it and ran in for the touchdown. Looks like it's about a 6-yard run for him. So 7-0. Powdersville is on top of Beaufort, with the Eagles now getting the football for the first time. We're going to hit the break, and we'll come back with David Shelton while we're talking high school football. We'll look ahead to tomorrow night's 2 games. It'll be the 1A and the 2A contests. The 5A and 4A games will be on Saturday. We've got the 3A game going on tonight, and David will join us to talk about the games coming up tomorrow night when we come back here on Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Your home is where your memories live. It's where you laugh and where you love. We understand the importance of the valuables under your roof, tangible and intangible alike. So no matter what's around the corner, we'll be there, offering you and your family the support that's made Farm Bureau Insurance a trusted name for nearly 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Learn more at scfbins.com.
Call me, Alex Satterfield, at 803-749-9171 for all of your Midlands insurance needs.
South Carolina's taste buds have spoken, and they're asking for beef. There are more than 7,800 farms raising cattle from pasture to plate in the Palmetto State. So whether it's steaks on the grill before the big game, sirloin medallions plated for date night, or burgers with a family, make sure beef is a part of your playbook this football season. Smoked, grilled, and slow roasted. Find the best way to enjoy your beef at scattle.org. Beef, it's what's for dinner in South Carolina. Funded by the South Carolina Beef Council, part of the Beef Checkoff Program.
Show your team pride wherever you go with Founders Federal Credit Union's collegiate debit cards. Get your University of South Carolina and Clemson University debit cards at any Founders office or by calling 1-800-845-1614. Plus, our debit cards are digital wallet ready, so you can pay however you please. Not a member? Visit relaxjoinfounders.com or one of our 37 convenient locations to see if you qualify for membership. Terms and conditions apply. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA.
We are back on Sports Talk Media Network over at Benedict College side of the state championship games. We get the first game ongoing as we speak. Powdersville has taken a 7-0 lead on Beaufort in the 3A state championship game. And we'll see if Beaufort is able to mount their own drive to counter what Powdersville just did, as we keep you up to date on what's happening here. And again, there's 2 more games tomorrow and 2 more games coming up on Saturday. Let's talk about the games coming up tomorrow night as we welcome in to Sports Talk once again from the Charleston Post and Courier and the High School Sports Report. We know him as Best in Business. People who are close to him know him as David Shelton. Welcome in, David. How are you?
I'm good. A little noisy, but it's okay.
What's going on, David, in the background?
Yeah, what's going on there?
About 12 kids just came into the bathroom.
Oh, okay. I won't get into
I went in the bathroom. I went in the
there.
bathroom because it was quiet, and then about 12 kids came in, so I'm walking back outside.
Very good. Very good.
Anyway, we're good.
All right, David.
I'm a professional. I can operate.
Yes, sir.
That's okay. That's how we roll. Let's talk about Abbeville and Oceanside Collegiate in the 2A championship game tomorrow. Your thoughts on that matchup?
Going to be a really good game. Oceanside is the favorite. They've been number 1 for pretty much most of the season, but you know they're playing in their first state championship, and Abbeville's playing in like their 100th. It seems. I think they've won 5 of the last 7 state titles, so you know they'll have a little edge. I think an experience in these type of situations, but Oceanside's really good. I mean, Abbeville coach Jamie Nichols said they're probably one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the state, any classification. Big offensive line, aggressive, physical, really good on defense. Abbeville likes to run the football, and Oceanside is very good against the run, so that kind of plays into Oceanside's hands. And I think the pressure's on the Abbeville defense. They got Oceanside scores a lot of points, and they just got to keep the game close. And if they can get it to the fourth quarter, maybe that experience will, maybe that'll make a difference with some of those players having been in that situation before.
Yeah. I would imagine, too, that Oceanside would like to make Abbeville a passing team, if at all possible. Could Abbeville respond in that manner if they had to throw the ball? Would they be able to do that?
I mean, they throw it okay, but I think they've thrown less than 100 passes this year, so that's not their game. Now, they average 308 yards rushing per game, but, again, I think they'll get their yards, but that's going to be very tough to do that continuously against Oceanside's defensive front. I think Abbeville's going to have to mix in some passes. Special teams could be huge. Return game, punt and kick return. Both teams have guys that are really good at it. So maybe that will make a factor. If it comes down to a clutch kick, maybe at the end, I like Abbeville's chances. Addison Nichols is, he's a defensive end, but he's not a bad kicker. So, but I don't think it's going to come down to that. I think Oceanside just got a little bit too much. I don't think it'll be a blowout. Some people have mentioned that on Twitter. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think Abbeville will compete because of their pride and their tradition. But I think Oceanside should win the game.
David, I don't want to get into the minutia of whether or not private schools should be playing in the public school league. We can save that debate for another day. But do you think there's at least a faction of the fan base around the state that is pulling for Abbeville from the standpoint that they're running up against a team like Oceanside Collegiate?
Oh, I promise you, 90% of the people who follow high school football in this state, coaches and otherwise, are pulling for Abbeville, especially after Great Collegiate won it last year. Right. I don't get involved in all that kind of stuff. It's 2 teams playing football, but yeah, I've if I could put on the record all the coaches that I've talked to in the last couple of weeks, it would be almost unanimous that they want Abbeville to win this game.
Wow.
Yet they continue. I'm not blaming the coaches, but whatever, organizationally or whatever, they don't do anything about it, or they're powerless to do anything about it.
Yeah, man, we've talked about this on the scoreboard show. There's lawyers that get involved, and they can't really do anything about it, because if the legislature gets involved and lawyers start suing, they got good cases. So you would hope that eventually there'll be enough of those schools that they'll get tired of hearing the mess, and they'll go form their own league. The Christchurch, St. Joe's, Christchurch is another school playing in state final against Johnsonville, and a lot of people don't want them to win. Again, me personally, I just want to see a good football game, and that's what I'm there for. But I can tell you, it is a bone of contention with a lot of people in the state.
Update the 3A before we switch to 1A. A fumble recovered by Powdersville at the Powdersville 45. They drive it down in 7 plays. Thomas Williams, a 7-yard run, a 6-yard run, another run of a yard, and eventually he scored on a 25-yard run. There was a penalty thrown in there that backed him up some. So Williams scores on a 25-yard run, and it's 14-0 Powdersville. And we are 5:06 to go in the first quarter, and Powdersville is up 14-0. David, got about 2 minutes, so let's talk about the 1A game, which is tomorrow night. The 2A game is in the afternoon. The 1A game is at night tomorrow night, and it is, as you just touched on, going to be Johnsonville and Christchurch. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Johnsonville has survived some very close games, but it's kind of made them tough. It's made them they're very accustomed to being in a close game and finding ways to win. And they're very talented as far as an offense. They can run the football extremely well with a good running back. Christchurch has been, sort of the cream of the crop up there since they moved back down from 2A to 1A. They've been kind of the best team in the upper state all year, and they also have a very talented running back. So, I think both teams, maybe Christchurch throws it a little bit better. Both teams are pretty good on defense. It's going to be a close game, but I think Christchurch may have a little bit of an edge.
Okay, David, we appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your night. We'll see you here tomorrow to watch the games, and then we'll also have you tomorrow night as we preview the games coming up on Saturday and the high school scoreboard. One more roll of that tomorrow night, too. So plenty of high school football talk ahead. Thank you, David. David Shelton.
Sounds good, man.
Joining us here on Sports Talk from Benedict, and we're back after the break.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here is tonight's forecast. We're clear and cold overnight with the low dipping down below freezing. We'll bottom out at 30 degrees. Tomorrow, a mix of sun and clouds, a high up to 59. And for the weekend, look for a 20 to 30% chance of a shower both Saturday and Sunday. But warmer, temps back up to 71 on Saturday, the low 60s for Sunday. Next week looks like a wet one for us. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On Point local weather.
Everyone seems to be hiring these days, but are they good jobs where there's potential for growth? What about on-the-job training and competitive wages, including health insurance and a 401k plan? Professional Printers is looking for their next star. They're a local printer with 2 locations, 130 employees, and a national clientele. If you've got a good attitude, want to learn some great skills, and work in a positive environment, reach out on proprinters.com or apply in person at 301B Greystone Boulevard.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting legislation to avert what could have been an economically ruinous freight rail strike won final approval in Congress on Thursday as lawmakers responded quickly to President Biden's call for federal intervention in a long-running labor dispute. The Senate passed a bill to bind rail companies and workers to a proposed settlement that was reached between the rail companies and union leaders in September. The measure now goes to President Biden for his signature. The Supreme Court says the Biden administration program to cancel student loans will remain blocked for now, but the justices have agreed to take up the case in late winter. The court's decision to hear arguments relatively quickly means it's likely to determine whether the widespread loan cancellations are legal by late June. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 194 points, the Nasdaq rose 14, the S&P down 3. This is SRN News.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Hi, this is Marcia Klayman.
And I'm Karen Pickard. We're your hosts for the Positive Point on Aging.
We'll talk about aging gracefully and senior care every Tuesday morning from 8:30 to 9 o'clock a.m.
Join us right here on The Point for the Positive Point on Aging.
Brought to you by Oakley Village of Lexington.
Jingle bells, shotgun shells. Your Christmas should always start at Shooter's Choice. Hey, I know you're wanting that new gun for Christmas. Time to get shopping for it right now at Shooter's Choice on Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia. Are you looking for a Benelli, Browning, Henry, Glock, SIG, Springfield, or Ruger, or maybe some other popular brand? Let the experienced staff at Shooter's Choice help you make the right decision for your perfect holiday gift. If it's hunting or personal concealed carry, or just that new gun you've been waiting for, with Shooter's Choice holiday season promotions, they've got you covered. In stock, on the shelf, ready for you to check out. Not catalog pictures or internet photos. You have the real deal to hold and compare. And if you're not sure what you may need for that special someone, make it simple with a gift card. You can't go wrong with that. So do your shopping locally at Shooter's Choice on Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia, or shop online at shooterschoicesc.com. Make your first choice, your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
Hello, this is Stacy Huff, host of Huff Nation Sports Zone, each and every Saturday, 10 to 11 a.m. right here on 100.7 FM, The Point, and also 1470 a.m. It'll be a fun trip around the world of sports. Huff Nation Sports Zone, check it out.
Attention listeners, con artists have made tricks for stealing your money, but the AARP Fraud Watch Network is here to help you protect yourself and your family. We give you the tools you need to spot and avoid scams. So listen for the AARP Fraud Watch Network alerts. Use our scam tracking map to see the latest scams and sign up for prevention tips and alerts from law enforcement. To learn how to outsmart con artists before they strike, visit aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork.
Hey, it's the Cigar Militia. We want to thank the Midlands for a wonderful first year. Thank you for helping us grow. We had no idea we had so many good friends out there. One thing I love about the cigar culture is we all have our favorite brands, but we're also willing to try new ones too. Come in and get your old standby or have one of our knowledgeable staff members walk you through the humidor to your new favorite. We're at 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard in the same plaza as the Melting Pot Restaurant.
Okay, going to the second quarter here in the 3A state championship game at Benedict, still 14-0 Powdersville leading over Beaufort. In the second quarter, Beaufort has the football at this particular time. We'll give you an update if something new happens. In the meantime, it is time to continue with our Thursday night menu. It is time for No Will But the Thrill. We welcome in Carl Hill of Gamecock fame, former Gamecock standout defensive end / linebacker / hybrid defensive player, the original slash for the Gamecocks on defense. And Will was going to be with us. He texted me about 10, 15 minutes ago. Something came up at his work, at his business he had to tend to. Maybe we'll get him on tomorrow night. So, Carl, the floor is all yours.
Oh man, and what a beautiful floor it is to be on after last week. Now, Phil, we're gonna go back to our very first show we did of the season. I told you that this team had an opportunity to have a special season, very similar to the Black Magic team, and I said they won't win as many games, but if they get around third in the East and get up that ladder and win a couple ball games, this could be really special. And they end up, beating Kentucky in that streak, Texas A&M beating that streak, number 10 Tennessee, and then in the 7 game and all the other streaks we in for Clemson. Man, it's just not a special season. Still, and you go back to look at 3 years before Shane Beam even came here. We won 13 ball games and lost a bowl game. In the 2 years he's been here, we won 15 ball games and we won a bowl game, and we still have a bowl game to play. The cocks are crowing right now. And with that game this past weekend, again, I'm going to get back on my soapbox. And I told your butt that Clemson Tiger offense had one guy. You named all them other guys, and you still looking for them. They all on posters. They all missing in action. You couldn't find. They had one guy, and that was their running back. I told you they didn't have a secondary. Their coaching staff had no answer in the second half for our offensive coaching staff or our defensive coaching staff. And I hear O'Dabo talking about it's unacceptable. If it was unacceptable, you wouldn't have went in and hired a brand new offensive coordinator who's never done the job, a defensive coordinator who's never done the job. You wouldn't have went into the season with a bad quarterback that you're trying to improve, and you give him no help on offense, no receivers, no nothing. You're going to do it the Clemson way. The Clemson way got y'all butt beat last weekend doing the Clemson way.
So here's the question for you, Carl. I mean, we've seen the Gamecocks over the decades have these high moments, but how do they maintain? Because look, 2 years ago, the second year under Will Muschamp, they won 8 games in the regular season. They won a bowl game. They won their 9th. They did not beat Clemson, but otherwise, similar kind of year to South Carolina record-wise. He really could not take it from there to another level. What makes you believe? And now Shane Beamer's got to go hire another offensive coordinator. And look, who knows who will be on the coaching staff next year? I'm not saying folks want to leave. I'm just saying that's the nature of the business. And who knows who's going to be on the roster next year? You may be starting over next year with a brand new quarterback. I'd say odds are you're going to be starting over next year with a brand new quarterback, several new offensive linemen, a few new defensive linemen, some new linebackers, certainly 2 new corners. I mean, there's going to be a lot of new people having to step up and play well for South Carolina to maintain. That's where recruiting comes in year after year. And my question to you is, can they maintain and build on what they've done the first 2 years under Beamer?
Well, you kind of your first part of your question was comparing this coaching staff to the Muschamp coaching staff.
Well, not comparing. I was just making the point
that first couple of success.
They were, they were so excited about Muschamp, they went out and gave him this monster contract. Okay, and then 3 years later they're eating it, and now they're going to do another contract for Beamer. I'm sure. Will they be somewhat frugal and sensible? Or are they going to blow the bank up to pay him? And then who knows what's going to happen? Be in a similar situation 3 or 4 years down the road, or maybe this is salvation. Maybe he is the answer. Maybe he's the guy they've been waiting for all these centuries to walk through the door.
I'm not going to say he's got all these centuries, but the difference between the reason Muschamp wasn't able to build on his success after his second year, he didn't have a locker room that believed in one thing. All those guys were me guys. They were, how can I get to the next league guy? South Carolina, the University of South Carolina really was not important to them at all. Shane Beamer has have these guys playing, and it's obvious by the guy they're playing on the field. He's got these guys playing for the University of South Carolina as a process of getting what they want to do. But the University of South Carolina is extremely important to him. The culture that Muschamp built was an awful culture, the worst culture I've ever seen since I've left the University of South Carolina.
Really?
The players fought, and I guarantee if you talk to folks about Will Muschamp, you figure out how many guys in his exit interview cussed his butt out for his incompetence and how he treated them. There were a bunch of individual guys that care nothing about this university, but this Shane Beamer, those guys are playing for the University of South Carolina. And again, too, he's been very fortunate. He was very fortunate to be able to get Satterfield as his coordinator when we were able to get him, because if we would have kept Bobo from Georgia, he was a culture killer. That's why he didn't last at Auburn. Those guys who think that they're bigger than the program and they don't care about program, they're looking at their successes. They can't win. And to answer your question about, I gave you the records of what Shane is doing. We didn't think we would have the success we had based on last year's season, but the end of last year's season, because of the success we had going into the beating in the Duke Mayonnaise Bowl, having that success gave us an opportunity to get some guys in here to help us do what we were able to do this year. This process doesn't change. Because of the success we were able to have this year, it's going to allow us to kind of fit on linebacker. Man, we need so many linebackers hurt this team for the last 2 years, have kept us from having success. It kept us from having success this year with very poor linebacker play because of linebacker depth. First of all, we got Mo hurt, and then that just hurt everybody having to move around. But this team is building something. And again, only thing we're doing is building to 2024. When we have to be number 12 in the country to get into the playoffs, baby. We headed that way.
There you go. There you go.
We on the up street, baby.
I hear you.
And I hate that we're going to be in that position to get in. I think it's a very liberal process of getting everybody in. There's too many teams. You don't have to work for anything, but since they're doing it this way, hey, you just got to go with it. But in 2024, we're gonna be ready, baby.
The Gamecock side of Will and the Thrill here tonight. Carl Hill with us for a few more moments, looking back on the Carolina Clemson game on Saturday. And Carl, when you watch the ball game, especially in the second half from a defensive standpoint, Clemson was held to less than 100 yards of total offense. They only converted 2 third downs. Did you see anything differently in terms of scheme that the Gamecocks weren't doing necessarily in the first half to the second half? Were they playing harder? What was the reason in your mind that the Gamecocks were so dominant defensively in the second half?
It wasn't so much what they did in the scheme wise, but what they end up doing with their Mike linebacker, their middle linebacker. Every time that there was a big play, at first in the first half, the Mike linebacker was kind of overplaying stuff, and you kind of late in the second half, you start watching the Mike linebacker instead of reading and reacting to plays. He kind of sat there. He was like a quarterback in the pocket. He'll bounce about 3 times before he started move. And by doing so, when the play came back to where he was at, we were able to make the plays. They were just being too aggressive from the Mike linebacker, and they made him sit there and bounce for almost looked like he was a spotter. He just bounced like a quarterback. He bounced 3 times, and he was able to make plays, and Clemson didn't have an answer for us. They're in trouble. They're still a championship quality team. We beat a championship quality team. They're playing for me something that I'm going to say that we're going to continue to beat them. But right now, we got a better coaching staff than they have, and they don't have any guys on their team. So without guys on their team, they can't compete for championships like they used to have.
Well, and speaking of the coaching staff, you talked about Marcus Satterfield a couple of moments ago with his departure out to Nebraska. If you were Shane Beamer, what direction would you go in terms of hiring a new offensive coordinator?
This is not really that complicated, and congratulations to Satterfield. I'm glad he was able to have a couple really good games to get the opportunity to go out and coach at Nebraska. And I wish him nothing but success and thank him for everything that he's done for our university. It's kind of simple. There's no everybody talking about what type of offense Shane Beamer coordinator he's going to look for. In this day and age, man, he said we ran a pro-style offense, and that pro-style offense, we didn't win a game in his 2 years here with a pro-style offense. The offense we ran was an open field, hit the middle of the field, hit the outside, throw a ball to every position, every angle in the field, so you have to make them defend field, and then you have your quarterback run just a little bit. It's the same thing Alabama, Clemson did when they were winning championships. Is what Georgia does. Everybody does the same. It's an RPO, zone read, mixed in with some pro style. That's what everybody runs. So I hope he finds somebody, like he said, that's done it before, so you don't have to learn on the job like the guys up at Clemson and like Satterfield had to do. Get somebody who's got a system that you believe in, that you think can work here, that's your same mindset. And you just need somebody with experience. You got to have somebody that's been in the battle or two. In this conference, it's hard to do it if you hadn't done it before.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Before we let you leave, let's go ahead and look ahead to 23. The rivalry meter, your rivalry meter here on December 1st, but looking ahead to November of 2023. What does your rivalry meter read tonight?
They don't like the portal. They're going to still keep the offense coordinator and the same defensive coordinator. They're going to still think that the Clemson way is going to get them over the top and keep doing it their way and not do anything different. And they in the cockpit, I'm like, Will, I'm at a 10. We don't lose in the cockpit, baby.
I had a feeling. Carl, we thank you. We'll get back with you around bowl time, wherever and whenever that happens to be. Have yourself a great holiday, and talk to you in a few weeks.
Go Cox, baby.
Thank you so much, Carl. The Thrill Hill. What a great job he did. We'll try and get Will tomorrow. And I really don't think he's hiding from us. He was all set to come on. He had something come up in the business world there he had to tend to. So hopefully we can get him tomorrow night. Meantime, Buford has answered. How about this? An 18-play, 82-yard drive. Ate up 7 minutes and 31 seconds. Colton Fairs rushing 5 yards for the touchdown. We're in the second quarter, 9:35 to go, and it is Powdersville leading Beaufort by a score of 14-7. Okay, we'll go to the break on the other side, give you the recruiting report for tonight. And I know we got some folks been waiting, trying to get on the air. We'll try and get to you after the break as well, so stay tuned for that. We are coming to you from Benedict, and Pat is over at our studios. That's the Dave and Buster studio in Columbia. Make sure you get out to Dave and Buster's, Columbia, Greenville, Myrtle Beach. Eat, drink, play, and catch the big games all season long at Dave and Buster's. We'll be at Dave and Buster's in Myrtle Beach Wednesday night. Our coverage of the Touchstone Energy Bowl all next week from the beach. Back in a moment.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I love sports, and I've helped people for over 30 years. Contact me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com when the insurance company won't pay your claim or you have complicated issues. Some other business causes your business to lose money, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. When you lose a relative and find out you got cut out of a will or don't get what was promised. When you have serious injury, like from a wreck or mishap or on the job, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
We're with Major Billy Downer of DNR. Of course, hunting is very popular across the state of South Carolina. Major Downer, what things should our hunters be thinking about before they get out in the fields?
It seems like every other show we're talking about hunting safety of some sort. Whether it's turkey season or deer season, hunters always need to be aware of the target. Make sure before you pull that trigger that you know what you're looking at. Whether it's a turkey during turkey season or a deer during deer season, you know your identifying features of your game. You know what's beyond that target in case you miss.
Learn more about the great outdoors in South Carolina with Major Billy Downer on SC Wild here on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Life, it has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's little things like hitting every red light or dropping your cell phone. Maybe it's the bills, rent, or pressure at work. But when it comes to the South Carolina Education Lottery, you should never feel like playing will solve everything. The lottery is a game. It's played for fun. So set a dollar amount. Expect not to win and make sure responsibilities, family, friends, and work come first. Visit playresponsiblysc.com.
All right, the recruiting report tonight, as always, brought to you by our good friends at Seawells. You know what tomorrow is, right? Tomorrow's Friday. It's Friday in most parts of the world. But here in South Carolina, we know it as, I hope, Pat, a roast beef Friday, an RBF.
You got it, Corn. Tomorrow, December 2nd, will be carved roasted sirloin of beef along with southern fried chicken, fried flounder, all the fixings you can handle, salad, and dessert.
Yeah. That's just, my eyes are watering just thinking about it. That's so good. So, I mean, look, get out there tomorrow, enjoy it. It's 11 to 2, $13. You won't find a better buffet anywhere, especially with that menu. Check it out. The folks at Seawells, they would love to see you. You got something that needs the best in the catering business. Now, don't forget, they got a beautiful facility on Rosewood Drive. They got great banquet rooms. They can handle your event, or they can come to your location. They can bring the setup. They can bring the food. They clean it up, pack it up, take it home. All you got to do is pay them. But before you do that, you got to call them. 803-771-7385 or online at SeawellsCateringSC.com. Chris, I saw you licking your lips as Pat was going over that menu. I think you got a little hungry there.
Roasted sirloin of beef, though. I love how they frame it. It's not most of us just say roast beef, but
it's about the presentation, my man. It's about the presentation.
Exactly. It's all about presentation. Exactly right.
Yep. Okay, so defensive end in the 24 class, C.J. Jackson, Christopher Jackson, 6'4", 220 out of Tucker, Georgia. Been on Clemson's radar for a little bit, drawing interest from defensive ends coach Lemansky Hall. He was at Clemson during the summer. He talked with Hall, who wanted to see more of him and develop a relationship before extending an offer. All that happened over time, and Jackson landed his offer November 19th on a visit for the Miami game. He actually got the offer directly in a meeting with Dabo Swinney. Very excited to get that offer. And he also went to the Syracuse game at Clemson, so he's got a good look inside the program, impressed by what he's seen, the family atmosphere, the graduation rate, the way they develop defensive ends. He's a guy that can play with his hand in the dirt. He can play standing up. You can move him around. He's that kind of an agile defensive end, but he also likes how Clemson sends guys to the NFL. In the last month, he's also picked up offers from Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Indiana and Coastal Carolina. He's got Clemson right up at the top of his list at this point. He said Clemson is definitely there. It's one of those offers that, you really, really want. He was happy to get it. Indiana's in there because they were like the first to offer him. Georgia, the hometown school's in there. Ole Miss, too. He had 11 sacks this season. He also visited North Carolina, Mississippi State, Florida State, and Georgia. He'll take more visits. He's looking at a decision sometime this summer. The smallest state is home to the biggest name in the transfer portal right now. That's Rhode Island, for those of you who don't know the smallest state. That is the smallest state, isn't it? It's still the smallest state, right? It hasn't expanded.
I believe you're correct.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you. His name is Johnny Cornelius, or maybe it's Ajani, or maybe it's Ajani. He's an offensive tackle, 6'5", 315, all conference at Rhode Island. Announced his plans to transfer on November 29th. Since then, programs have leaped out to him. USC joined that group this morning with an offer. He's also got Auburn, Oregon, Penn State, Indiana, Minnesota, Syracuse, Louisville, Memphis, Cincinnati, Temple, Akron, Marshall, Nebraska, West Virginia, Kansas, Washington State, Virginia, Missouri. And that's all within the last 2 days. He started 11 games at right tackle, and he earned first-team All-CAA honors. He's out of White Plains, New York, has 2 years of eligibility remaining. And I think that my friends, 2024 wide receiver Jordan Shipp of Charlotte, who has a USC offer and interest from Clemson, was offered by Kentucky. Also being offered by Kentucky, 2024 athlete Trey Horn of Rabun Gap, Georgia, who was at Clemson last Saturday. That is recruiting for tonight. Be sure to check it out online regularly on our website, sportstalksc.com, on Twitter. Use the hashtag STRecruiting. Let's go to Scott.
No, before we do that, real quick, 2 things we haven't mentioned tonight. Sad news that Gaylord Perry passed away over the last evening. The outstanding pitcher and former head coach at Limestone. Died last night. And also, how do you get this far into the show and not brag on yourself a little bit? Congrats and props to you for being one of the finalists for the Sportscaster of the Year here in our state.
Oh, poo. I mean,
well, Phil is one of the finalists from the
hit the dump
Rick
button.
Henry, Scott Einsberg, and
nope, I'm going to say it again. You're a finalist for it again, Phil, and we're proud of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, listen, I appreciate that. You know what? Let's take the caller. I want to take the calls. Thank you very much for mentioning that, but it really is not necessary. Let's go to Scott in Orlando. See if we can squeeze in 1 or 2 more. Scott, welcome in. How are you?
Hey, doing well. I wanted to talk about the offensive coordinator at South Carolina. First, I'm not very sad to see Satterfield go. In my opinion, he had 3 good games in 2 years, and the rest of them were average or subpar. I want to hear your thoughts on that. And then secondly, I want to throw out 2 names for you and see what you thought. Scott Frost for offensive coordinator, or the guy Jeff Scott? Well, what do you think about those names? And let me hold on.
First of all, I think you're right. I mean, the offense struggled for 2 years for the most part against quality competition. We can't, I think they put a little bit of lipstick on a pig there the last couple of games, right? I mean, he leaves with it looking all shiny and bright. Yeah. But for the most part, the offense underachieved. It was for whatever reason. Now, I will say this. Last year, don't forget, quarterback issues. If you're not getting good quarterback play, you're going to struggle. And they went through 4 quarterbacks last year. So
just use the Clemson game as a template, Phil. Last year, 30-0. Spencer Rattler comes in. South Carolina wins 31-30. It's obviously a quarterback game.
Yeah, they had the better quarterback, and they made bigger plays. And so, but I can't disagree with what he's saying. I mean, the offense was not great for 2 years, but it's what have you done for me lately? And I think he can walk away feeling like he helped bring South Carolina two of their greatest wins in their history, to be quite honest with you. Scott Frost is interesting. No, Jeff Scott will not happen. I imagine Jeff Scott will just maybe sit out this year. He's got plenty of money. He can sit back, reevaluate. But he's not going to Clemson. He's not going to South Carolina either. So, but Scott Frost would be an interesting concept. Buford just scored again. It's 14-14, so we're all tied up. 4:28 to go. We will have post-game coverage on the website. Back here with you tomorrow night. Thank you, Chris.
Yes, sir.
And thank you, Pat. And thank you, everybody, for being with us. Have a great night. See you tomorrow right here on Sports Talk.
Local in the morning, afternoon, and evening. Columbia's local talk radio experience.